Hello everyone, I'm Mitali Kedia. Currently, I'm a PhD candidate at Monash University in Melbourne. Today, I want to discuss not only the importance of cycling in decarbonizing our cities, but also recognizing the need of adding high quality cycling experience within the design practice. The overdependence on cars not only ushered with it a lost sense of livability, but also started affecting the sustainability of our urban environment. Cities today are in a grip of personal motorized vehicles, while walking, cycling, and public transport are being increasingly marginalized. Cycling as a mode of transport occupies lesser space than cars, reduces on road congestion, requires less investment, and regular cycling keeps people fit and healthy. Thus, cycling is economically, environmentally, and sustainably beneficial for every society. Netherlands is universally considered and regarded as the best practice to facilitate high levels of cycling. We all want our cities to have a cycling experience which resembles that of the cities in Netherlands, may it be Amsterdam or Utrecht or Eindhoven. Dutch cities have been advocating for bicycle use since 1800s. The success of cycling culture in Netherlands is represented through the cultural and social significance a bicycle holds. By adopting the principles from Crow Design Manual for Bicycle Traffic, Netherlands has managed to make their bicycle infrastructure coherent, direct, comfortable, attractive, and safe for cyclists. The principles listed in the Crow Manual for the Dutch cities assess the efficiency of bicycle infrastructure by investigating how the infrastructure is for cyclists. By applying these principles, Netherlands has managed to create a variety of infrastructure to best suit the needs of cyclists, from providing separated bike paths to bidirectional separated bike lanes. The Crow principles have helped increase the design and efficiency of the bicycle infrastructure within Netherlands. This elevated roundabout for cycle traffic is another unique example of their design interventions. However, Netherlands, much like many other parts of Europe, has a very rich urban character with high city densities leading to a compact city development. The planners within Netherlands have made conscious efforts to integrate spatial planning, urban design, and urban regeneration schemes within the development of urban form, which is compact and dense. Walking and cycling thrive when distances to be covered are short and the experience of carrying out these two activities is pleasant and engaging. And this is one of the reasons why cycling in Netherlands looks so majestic. The manual extensively explains aspects of designing and planning cycle friendly design, cycle network, road sections, and junctions through its five main principles. However, it was noted that the experiential and qualitative factors have been relatively missing. This oversight could be a result of Netherlands' national policies on urban planning, design, and development, which integrates attributes of spatial planning and urban controls within it in order to maintain the design quality and placemaking in the Dutch cities. The importance of positive cycling experience is as important a factor for increasing cycle rates. Many countries have recognized the importance of cycling on the economy and society. Unfortunately, major developed countries like the United States, Australia, and United Kingdom lag behind in embracing cycling as a mode of commuting. In many cities, it is still identified as a recreational activity. There's a substantial level of difference visible within the cycling participation among these major countries. Countries and cities around the globe are adopting and adapting the Crow Manual principles to evaluate their existing bicycle infrastructure and are incorporating these principles within their planning practices. Cycles are classified as legal vehicles in Melbourne and therefore they have same rights and responsibilities as a car when riding. Australia has been struggling to meet its cycling targets. The current mode share within the country is only 1%, and the state of Victoria saw bicycle use of only 1.5% in 2016. The investments in cycling infrastructure for Victoria increased from 21 million Australian dollars in 2010 to 173 million Australian dollars in 2016. Many cities In many cities, strategic cycling corridors have been developed to help people ride to major destinations and activity centers. Despite many such interventions, the cycling participation within Melbourne remains low. If you have cycled on the streets of Melbourne or plan to, you can witness a variety of interventions trying to accommodate cyclists on the road. You have your typical segregated bike lane separated by physical partitions from vehicles to increase the aspect of safety. And then you have these floating bicycle lanes in the middle of a carriageway painted green to mark bicycle priority and bicycle use only. These floating lanes are not always adequate and sufficient. However, they do provide cyclists opportunity to get the most direct route to their destinations. Another common issue identified with cycling in Melbourne are the parked cars. A significant number of locations in Melbourne, the bike lanes are used for for car parkings as well, which not only causes inconvenience to the cyclists but also leaves them vulnerable to get doored while riding. Having said that, Melbourne also has invested in separate bike trails for commuting purposes, which run away from the motorized highways and are shared with pedestrians and runners. Along with this, there are also cycle thoroughfares where movement of cars is restricted and priority is given to public transport and cycling. Swanston Street is one such great example. Comparing the Australian scenario to a country like India, which offers a contrasting view of cycling. The cycling climate in India is very diverse, consisting of around 23 different types of vehicles plying on her roads. Even the mode share of cycles in India range from 13 to 21%. It is interesting to note this peculiarity of cycling conditions in India and other developed countries. India, with a higher number of people cycling, essentially lags in advocating and investing in good cycling conditions and infrastructure. Whereas countries like UK, US, and Australia, with a lower share of people cycling, aims at making cycling a natural choice for travel with its high funding and innovation goals. These videos provide a great insight into cycling climate in Indian cities. There is a significant lack of any cycling infrastructure. This inadequacy is because of inefficiency in implementation. Even though the current policies and guidelines in the country acknowledges the importance of providing adequate and efficient cycling infrastructure. Disregard towards traffic rules, the social and cultural importance given to a car, and stigmas associated with riding a cycle are just few of the reasons why cycling and cyclists in Indian cities are overlooked. In addition to this, the user profile of cyclists in India is noticeably distinctive compared to other developed nations. They are either potential cyclists or captive cyclists. Potential cyclists are the ones who cycle only for recreational purposes, whereas captive users are the ones who cycle as a necessity and not a choice. As visible from these videos, cycle is not the only non-motorized vehicles. Many cycle rickshaws also ply on Indian roads, and the design requirements for these are a bit different to that of an ordinary bicycle. An investigation into the application of the Dutch Kuro principles in the global north and global south indicated certain differences and similarities in cycling. Where the countries in global north, including Australia, acknowledges the safety to be the primary concern while developing a bicycle friendly infrastructure, Indian focus was on provision of the most direct route to the users. This distinction emerged due to the difference in the user profile for both the countries. Netherlands and Australia witness a mix of users based on difference in age, gender, occupation, and ethnicity, with majority of cycling taking place for leisure and work related purposes. India, on the other hand, has a very limited kind of audience for cycling. These are the people who cycle not as a choice but as a necessity. The comparison of cycling perspectives from different countries laid down an opportunity to identify a common shortcoming when designing for bicycle traffic. Neither of the countries, may it be the Netherlands or Australia or India, present the importance of quantifying and measuring the experience of cycling. The experiential and qualitative aspect of cycling is completely overlooked. Even though cycling infrastructure has been stated as the key element responsible for uptake of cycling, it is worth exploring what the impact of designing our urban fabric to cater to the needs and experiences of the cyclists can have on the levels of participation. This is where I situate my current research, where I am looking into exploring role of urban design in creating a cycle-friendly environment. Therefore, by achieving this, I aim to change the future conversations on cycling from only recognizing the objective and functional facets of cycling to including the intangible and immeasurable aspects that affect the experience of cycling. Thank you.